You know, I was stumped one day when a little boy asked, "Do you draw Mickey Mouse?" And I had to admit I do not draw anymore.
7 decades after Walt Disney's Disneyland opened on July 17th, 1955, Walt Disney has returned to Disneyland in audio-animatronics form, one of the most important decisions in the history of the Walt Disney Company. What's up, YouTube? Drew here. Today we're talking about Walt Disney: A Magical Life and the first ever Walt Disney Audio-Animatronics figure. With that being said, let's get to it. I have a press release and exclusive video to share with all of you, all of the details for Walt Disney: A Magical Life. Walt Disney: A Magical Life isn't just the Walt Disney Animatronic, it actually is a uniquely adapted version of the One Man's Dream film, which we first saw out here at Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. This version is narrated by Disney CEO Bob Iger, about a 15-minute long film, and followed by One Man's Dream. That's where the curtain rises to reveal the first ever Walt Disney Audio-Animatronic. Walt talks for about 2 minutes, so in total, this attraction is about 17 minutes of an experience. And something that is very, very important that I want to talk about right off the bat here is that the audio that you hear from the Walt Animatronic are Walt's own words. Disney did not use any AI here to recreate Walt's voice. This is all audio that Walt said back in the 1960s that has been seamlessly blended together to create this experience where you were visiting Walt Disney in his office, where he is talking to you, the guest, in the theater at the Main Street Opera House. And that kind of leads me into the amount of full circle moments here that kind of give me chills thinking about with Disney's history and everything that has led to this animatronic. So I first start off by viewing it is that Disneyland is Walt Disney's park. This is the only Disney park that he ever walked through and quite literally came up with as a result of wanting to go to a place where the parents and kids could play together. And now he is going to be speaking in his park 70 years later in animatronics form, which animatronics is a technology that Walt Disney himself pioneered. The story goes that he was in New Orleans and saw a talking bird in a little bird cage, and that little bird, him seeing that, led to animatronics being developed with the Tiki Room, and now we have all these A1000s, and now he has been brought back to life with the most advanced animatronic ever done by Walt Disney Imagineering. It goes even further. Like I mentioned, before you see the animatronic, you have One Man's Dream playing the film, like I mentioned out here at Hollywood Studios. Well, Disneyland was his dream, and the film is talking about his dream. So the fact that before you see Walt talk to you in this real life version of him, after the film talking about his dream, it's crazy. And going even further, the fact that after A Magical Life concludes its initial run, it's going to play in rotation with great moments with Mr. Lincoln. Walt Disney brought Abe Lincoln back to life through that animatronic, and now, 70 years later, you are going to have that animatronic that Walt himself worked on playing in rotation with the Walt animatronic. It's just insane to think about the amount of full circle moments from Disneyland to One Man's Dream to animatronics to Abe Lincoln. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy how everything over the last 70 years has led to this moment, being able to see Walt Disney speak in Disneyland himself. A little bit more here about how this Walt animatronic is the most lifelike figure ever done by Walt Disney Imagineering. Honestly, I feel like if it wasn't the best figure they've ever done in terms of the technology itself, well, there's no point. So this is appropriate to do for Walt Disney himself, because without him, none of this happens, and I'm not talking to all of you right now, nor wearing this shirt. So Disney says that the teams on this figure achieved many innovations never done before in a humanoid figure, such as achieving a twinkle in the eye, which honestly was one of the first things I noticed, where you can kind of see that glimmer, that little bit of a reflection through Walt's eyes. The first lean to stand motion for an all-electric figure, that is where Walt is directly standing off of the desk and stands up to address the audience. Realistic skin through new methods. No specifics on those new methods, just that this is the most realistic skin we've ever seen in an animatronic. Also that Imagineering studied muscle structure and the nuances of speaking and gesturing, such as how the mouth falls when the figure is speaking, as well as the very Walt mannerisms and movements, including the way Walt used his hands, so kind of making this the most realistic figure in the sense of this is how Walt moved, and that's kind of how they pulled from all of these interviews, not only the audio with what he's saying to us, but that this figure was set around his appearance in 1963, kind of the peak of Walt Disney's career, almost a decade after Disneyland opened, and how he talked in those interviews, then bringing that to life now in 2025. Also the fact that the technological leaps that Disney refers to them as moonshots. So all of these innovations, the team innovated them themselves, and they kind of call them moonshots at Walt Disney Imagineering, really going for the limits, the absolute most that they can do with where technology is with animatronics today. And in addition to the show itself, we have some incredible additions to the Opera House Theater itself, kind of celebrating Walt as a person and 70 years of Disneyland Park, which is crazy to say, 7 decades of this place, absolutely wild. This is being called The Evolution of a Dream, and it's an all-new gallery experience that's going to display images, artifacts, and art, some that has never been seen before, that showed Disneyland before, during, and after Walt's dream became a reality, including in the pencil drawings and other concept artwork featuring preliminary plans for Disneyland. So definitely make sure to pay attention to everything in the Opera House, because this is Disney's history. Without all this stuff, we don't have the show, like I mentioned. Diving into Evolution of a Dream, Disney says that the Walt Disney Family Museum selected more than 30 artifacts for this experience, including original items from Walt's private apartment, which have been never publicly displayed at Disneyland before. Those artifacts are on loan from the museum. Also that there's a special exhibit about the story and history of audio animatronics, featuring original and replica figures dating back to Walt Disney Imagineering's earliest development of the technology, including Tiki Room, like I mentioned, and It's a Small World, Pirates of the Caribbean, and more. And the pre-show for Walt Disney Magical Life itself is called Memories of Walt, featuring those who worked alongside Walt Disney and inspired his vision for Disneyland, sharing personal stories and reflections about Walt through touching anecdotes, behind-the-scenes content, and a rare glimpse into Walt's character, Walt Disney himself. And after the show ends, you're going to experience another new exhibit showcasing cast members at work through the years at Disneyland, as well as a stunning new mural talking about Disneyland's history and kind of a tease of what's to come with Disneyland Resort. Some of those new projects that were first announced back at D23 last August, all of the concept art for everything coming over the next 5 years. So that is everything for Walt Disney Magical Life, Disneyland 70th, and the Main Street Opera House. July 17th is when all of this officially opens. Very curious to see what you guys think about this figure in the comments down below. I think my first initial thoughts are it's going to take some time to get used to the fact that Walt Disney is back at Disneyland, and this is the first time we've ever seen this man talking to us since he passed away in the medium that he pioneered. The figure is absolutely incredible, but I think there's certain elements of it that I was kind of surprised by, and the more I watch it, the more I'll get used to it. So let me know what you guys think. With that being said, I'll see you all in my next video.